Hello, everyone. This is the 2021 candidate for governor of Virginia. My name is Merle Rutledge Jr. If you don't know, now you know. Of course, I'd like to start it off on my Facebook Live broadcast that God is good all the time. Now, one of my quotes that I decided to come up with, and it's always real when I decide to write or take some time away from the campaign trail just to reflect. Now, one of the nicest quotes I came out with, I don't expect every Republican or Democrat to love me. I don't expect every voter to just give me their vote. I don't expect to be handed anything in this race. I want you to be cautious. I want you to give me a hard time every step of the way. I want it to be challenged. I want to be tested. I want every obstacle and naysayers that anyone can find telling me I can't. I expect to hear I won't make it. I heard some say I can't handle the tribulations. They will bring up your past to remind you and won't find out the truth. The thing is, through all of it, God will still make me a way through it all. I will be the next governor of Virginia because God wouldn't have brought me this far to leave me alone now. God told me about all I'm going through now and said, I made you for this. Others that's in this race wasn't. If so, when is the last time your challengers gave God the praise? I tell my supporters to come as they are and not on how much donations for my campaign they have. The last will come first. Now, that's very powerful. It's real. And that's exactly why I believe in moving my campaign forward in order to take Virginia back out of the liberal clutches. Now, I want to start off this verse to say this. Those who are facing domestic violence or victims of sexual assaults, especially those who have been preyed on as young children here in America by those leaders who they felt was trusted and mentors for them in the time that they needed them in. And those who preyed on them to try to take advantage of the most vulnerable people that are around them and using their position in order to have an extra advantage and taking advantage of our kids from positions of authority that most kids are taught to respect. Whether you're a politician, a community activist, or a pastor, or those who work alongside them, at any given chance or time, these things can change up to where no longer are you being somebody's savior. You are then being their predator. Now, for those who don't know me that well, I can tell you like this. You know, what shocked me was when liberals passed in the schools and in certain subdivisions throughout Virginia that it's not mandatory to report sexual assaults. And I said to myself, this sounds kind of odd, because a lot of time frames it be in the places that you don't expect that these incidents occur, and the silence is there long term because of the shame that the victims feel. They feel like they deserved it, or that it was done as a matter of religious sacrament, whatever you call it. And then when they go to the people who they expected to have their back, to go to in regards to these type of situations, they turn their back on them. And then it'd be the least likely people who they thought they couldn't go to that step up and become their champion throughout their peril that they had to face when they felt that they was alone. Now, I've been on that end quite some time, especially in the south side of Virginia, where victim after victim thought that they couldn't go nowhere else. They felt like the justice system turned their back on them. Those in the community that used to celebrate them was the ones intimidating and harassing them not to come forward, not to speak, to stay silent. Then came along particular groups that put their neck out on the line, like Breaking the Silence and other sexual assault advocacy groups for victims. But during that time frame, they found out quickly that the enemy sometimes is faced from within, not from what you expect would come in your direction. And that happens far too often, to say the least. And in some of the cases I had a chance to be involved in, it's gut-wrenching, because most of the time frame it deals with a legal guardian or somebody who's close to you in the church or somebody who is a politician or whatever it may be, or a community leader. And they are the ones who are victimizing children who at a time period need guidance and help. And then they influence them by drugs, pedophilia, and basically trying to do whatever it takes to put them in the wrong direction, even though they are out there in the communities being celebrated for putting people in the right direction. And at those time periods, you got all these different type of people that help cover it up. They stop by the house, try to buy the victims off, or they ostracize them in the community, or they excommunicate them from groups that they used to associate with, their friends, their neighbors, and more. And you would think that people would be speaking up for the victim, but they speaking up for the predator. And I could say during this long road that I've been on, I haven't gave a damn about the predator. I haven't gave a damn about whether you're a politician. I haven't gave a damn whether you're a pastor or a deacon. If you do somebody in Virginia, especially our babies, wrong, exactly how I handle things means you are going to get my very best on exposing you and making sure justice is done. And to those who try to cover it up, you're exposed. And I've been doing it for quite some time. And I have seen the worst of these predators all over the place. And they caucus with Democrats. I can tell you that one. They caucus with liberals. And each and every single time period, they come out the woodwork. There is a trail of victims, a lot of them who haven't spoken. And it's the brave ones that do speak, that let people know that it's been going on for far so long. Sometimes the parents is the victims, and then their kids become further victims because of this veil of secrecy. It happens in all types of churches. It happens in all types of places, arenas, or communities that's all over, not only Virginia, but all across America. And during this time frame, as they grow older, they tend to believe this is natural for how to live life or what to accept, whether it's sexual assault or whether it's domestic violence. And during that time period, if you become a parent learning that, then it sometimes goes down and applies to your kids. And that's the shame that comes with the cause of silence. Now, Merle Rutledge doesn't believe in any woman or any person, no matter who you are, being silent to sexual assault, being silent to domestic violence. I believe anybody who decides to have the audacity to prey on your kids or to beat on you, they deserve everything that they get when they go to prison. But the fact is, far too often, the light sentences that come from liberal judges and liberals altogether in big cities is deafening with Brock Turner type sentences and basically telling these predators that we are going to give you a slap on the wrist. Sometimes gender plays the biggest role in it. If it's a female preying on another young female, it seems like it's not as bad as a grown-up man preying on a young woman or a teenager or a child. Regardless of the situation, as a grown-up, you know better. But sometimes when it comes down to these type of systems, it only enhances the narrative that not only the victims should stay silent, but if they speak up, justice will betray them. And that's why we need serious, tough leadership moving Virginia forward and making sure that families from the top to the bottom are protected. That silence is not going to be enough to stop these animals. The best way to deal with these type of animals is to lock them up, face them face to face, and do what you have to do with these cowards. Too often I'm hearing about people in relationships now, to this day, staying in abusive relationships over and over again, and then they end up dead. We see it all across America. Then we see those who are telling their kids that they're sexually assaulted to be quiet about it, let it go, forget about it. And they're living a life of torment, living those days each and every day. I know about it because I get phone calls to this day from the very victims that still need somebody to talk to, that stood up for them from the very beginning. It's not a proud moment of me running for office or a proud accolade. It's one of the worst and saddest and most depressing things you can do, no matter if justice is served or not, to know the emotional storm that these victims still go through, and they could have been victimized as early as 4 years old, and they still living in it today, every single day, up until 30 and 40, and for the rest of their life. It's life-changing. And to know that society is spending more time protecting these pedophiles and giving them a door wide open into the bathrooms, into our public places, trying to normalize this type of behavior, pedophilia or domestic violence or whatever. It makes me sick. It definitely pisses me off. That's why I'm going to be one of the toughest governors ever heard of when it comes down to these pedophiles and these monsters that continue to attack and prey on community after community. Because once they get kicked out of one community, especially if that community stays silent, all they do is go to another community to spread the venom. And it takes tough people making a tough call. It takes good cops making sure they ain't going to cover up. And it takes solid conservative judges to make sure that they locked up where they belong so they could be somebody else's bitch. Plain and simple. I know too much and too far. Been on these different paths with people all over to say that this is not a problem that needs to be solved and checked. That's why I tell everybody, especially women, to get locked and loaded. Doesn't mean it's going to stop, son, but make sure that you're prepared once you're confronted with whatever stranger or whatever you may know that decides to change from your friend to your enemy, or that stranger to your murderer or your rapist. Because I believe in fighting back, because I don't believe the police is going to always be every single place to stop a threat. But also at the same time, we need to make sure there's more awareness that there are people in these communities that are there directly entrusted to know that they are there for the victim, not to help cover up for the predator. You'll be so shocked that the very people that's covering up for the predator is the ones that've been victims themselves. So each time frame, I have to go back and forth, and weighing out just like anybody else. Exactly who's responsible, who's accountable, and break that son of a bitch down from the top to the bottom to make sure everybody's held accountable. Because, see, the devil doesn't like exposure. The devil likes to stay silent and continue to prey on those who they could take the souls from. Because that's what you're doing when this situation starts to happen, when these predators go after these babies, your babies. And a lot of times, friends, people don't face this situation until it already happens to them or to a close family member who they never expected that the person who they trusted around them would be the person who they will have to face justice with. But sometimes it gets even nastier. Sometimes it's the parents that are sending their kids out to these monsters and predators for drugs and money. This is how sick society has gotten, when it seems like it's no big deal, when it very much is a big deal. And if it's me to become governor of Virginia, and I've been doing this before even running as a candidate, speaking up, taking the attacks, taking the blitz, and quite frankly, I don't give a damn what toes I had to step on to make sure that it was fully known that your pedophile or your domestic violence or your sexual assault didn't go unnoticed. It takes tough people. There ain't too many politicians that could say they've been through those type of roads. Mine's is proven. But at the same time frame, for me not to speak up and to stay silent furthers this type of conduct from those who feel like they're too powerful to fall, or those who help them that feels like if they break this person down, if they come forward or whatever, they are worried about what happened to the last victim. The only way to stop having victims is to go ahead and attack and kill the wolf. It doesn't mean you have to put them in the body bag. It just means directly at the same time period, most of these wolves are really cowards that only have people that make them bolder. It's almost like some people ain't nothing without their homeboys. That's a popular phrase. And realistically, you put them by themselves, have them walk by themselves, put them in jail, going into a cell by themselves with other animals that think worse than them, then you see exactly how tough they really are compared to what college travesties they put out there in your communities. So if you're a victim of sexual assault or domestic violence, and it has came from those who you feel was trusted, and it doesn't matter whether you trust them or not. The fact is, all victims matter. Doesn't say to lie on anybody. It says directly that you owe a duty to stop the next person from going through what you went through. And don't give a damn about who tells you to stay silent or tries to keep you quiet. That's exactly what the devil wants. It wants to make sure that it doesn't exist. And during that time frame, it just keeps growing bigger and more bolder to the point they feel like they can't get touched. That's exactly why when you have bad leadership running not only your state, but running your household, because some of these monsters try to control your household, even though they don't live in your house. And you're seeing that each and every day when you have to console these victims that have continuously have to watch the person who decided to victimize them walk free and basically brag about their activities because they know that society in their little world supports it. We gotta be stronger and tougher against these pedophiles, these sex traffickers, these kidnappers, whatever it may be. Because if we're not there to stop it when it happens, who's to say that person that you didn't stop yesterday isn't going to be the criminal that goes after you today? So it's very important for all Virginians, if you see or know somebody who is going through being intimidated and harassed, to step up for them, lock and load for them. Because trust and believe, I used to think that, hey, There's a victim that the community will step up and all that other stuff. But when you have viruses and cancers and liberals running around in these communities, understand that these victims ain't speaking up because they've seen or been basically put on display for other pedophiles and monsters and victims to say that we got to that person, and that's the example of what happens to you if you decide to come forward. So I'm telling all patriots, conservatives, anybody who has a backbone and spine without yellow going down their back, you stand up for the victims. Do not be a Democrat. That's exactly what they do. You see that now with Me Too became so what? You see that now more than ever with Tara Reid. Now the same groups that's saying, oh, we believe the victim, now they turn their backs to them. That's why you got to be careful of joining the cult called the Democratic Party. Because if you want to see exactly what your world and your family life is going to be, actions that they are doing now is not being done to stop it, it's being done to further it. While you see these criminals being out there, the way it is. Because then at the same time frame, they're sending them back to reoffend, to redo everything that they done before. So why are we telling law-abiding citizens at this time period and those who want to feel safe in their home and to feel safe on the street? The problem is they are putting the very people out there that you need the guns for. So that's why I'm telling each and everybody who supports my campaign to make sure that you don't know how to use a firearm, you learn it at this time period, and being prepared for these monsters and animals that I just mentioned before. Because the next time they try to intimidate or harass a victim or harass a family or whatever, we need to let them know we stand with them all across America, the victim, not the predators. So y'all have a good day. This is my Facebook Live because, of course, some stuff came up that I had to speak on. But trust and believe, when it comes down to victims and children, Rutledge always has their back.